Okay, so today
This is
we're
serious.
gonna dive into some
Very serious.
really disturbing stuff coming out of Vienna.
Yeah.
We've got a whole bunch of recent news articles detailing some very serious allegations of sexual assault, and a lot of these cases involve multiple perpetrators and most disturbingly underage victims.
Yeah,
It's heavy stuff
yeah, it is.
for sure.
We're
Horrible.
not here to like sensationalize anything, we're not
No.
trying to point fingers beyond, what's actually in the reports themselves.
Yeah.
What we really want to do is kind of like navigate through, all the factual details that are starting to come out about these different cases and try to, wrap our heads around the legal processes that are underway
Right.
and just see if we can get a clearer picture of, what's going on over there
Yeah.
based on these articles that we've got.
Yeah, and really I think like a big part of that is focusing on the key information,
Right.
the timelines involved.
And I think it's really important, right off the bat, to acknowledge just how difficult and sensitive this information is.
Yeah, absolutely.
These reports, they contain some really serious allegations. And, our goal here is to understand what exactly has been reported,
Right.
what context has been provided, and what processes are being followed,
Exactly.
as these cases move forward.
Okay, so why don't we start with this case that seems to be getting a lot of attention in the media, the one about this young girl
Right.
that they're calling Mia.
Yeah.
She's a 12-year-old Austrian girl, and the reports are saying that, she was basically subjected to repeated sexual attacks over several months.
Yeah.
Several months.
They're saying
Oh
between
my God.
February and June of 2023,
Wow.
and all over Vienna in different locations.
It's pretty shocking, the scale of the alleged involvement here.
Right.
Shit.
By early
Sure,
March
sure.
of 2024,
Yeah.
police were investigating 17 different individuals
Wow.
in connection to these attacks.
That's a huge
Yeah.
number of people.
And it's a real mix of nationalities, too.
Yeah.
We're seeing Austrian, Turkish, Syrian,
Yeah.
Italian, Bulgarian, Serbian.
It's a lot.
Yeah, and ages, too.
Mhm.
It's all over the place.
Yeah.
Some are actually under 14,
Yeah.
which is important to remember because 14 is the age of criminal responsibility in Austria.
Right.
But then it goes all the way up to 19.
So, I guess the first conviction that came out of, this whole mess involved this 18-year-old Afghan migrant named Weiss S.
Yeah,
And the reports say he was 15 at the time of the incident,
right.
which apparently happened in a hostel
How
room.
was this
And
happening?
what's really unsettling is the stuff that came out during his trial. He ended up entering a
Should they
partial
need
guilty
any
plea.
awareness?
Okay.
Commented.
And his defense basically argued that he thought the age difference was fine.
What?
Yeah, I know, but the articles were really clear
Yeah.
that he knew Mia was under 14
Yeah.
and that she got pregnant.
Right.
As a result.
And this is where it gets really, really disturbing.
Oh, yeah.
Even after she had an abortion, he admitted to blackmailing her with these sex videos that he'd made.
I know. It's just like, what?
I mean, it's...
What kind of justification?
But his explanation for it is unbelievable.
Right.
He claims that she was unfaithful to him at some ski camp and that she gave him back a ring that he'd given her.
Yeah, that's
crazy, right?
that's just so messed up.
Yeah.
On so many levels.
It's like a complete lack of,
yeah.
understanding of relationships.
Understanding of consent, respect for another person.
Yeah, totally.
It's really disturbing.
But then it gets even worse
Sure.
because they found this stuff on his phone.
Right.
This TikTok channel called Exposing Vienna,
Oh, yeah.
where he was posting about her referencing 15 guys.
It's like public shaming.
Yeah.
It's revenge porn.
Horrible.
It's like this whole other
Oh, yeah.
level of
Yeah.
awful on top of everything else. And, you read about the impact on Mia and her family, and it's just heartbreaking.
Of course.
Her mother gave a statement, and she said that Weiss S. was like the savior figure at first, but then he ended up completely alienating Mia from her family.
It's classic
Yeah.
manipulation and
Yeah.
deception.
And there's this really disturbing detail in the Kronen Zeitung report where they say that Mia was treated like a trophy among this group of teenagers.
Yeah.
And they even found footage of the abuse where you can hear Mia yelling, "Stop it!"
God.
So clearly it wasn't consensual.
Right.
No matter what anyone tries to say now.
Exactly. And it's like completely contradictory to his original statement. to the police back in October of 2023.
Yeah, where he said she was like this defenseless little girl.
Right up against this group of older boys.
Yeah.
It's like...
It doesn't add up.
No, it doesn't at all.
It makes you wonder, how much he really understands.
Exactly.
What happened?
Yeah. And for all of that, he got a sentence of 15 months probation.
Wow.
And he has to pay like 670 pounds in damages.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I know. It's caused a lot of public outcry for sure.
So,
yeah.
What about the bigger investigation?
Well, they did these raids back in February 2024.
Okay.
And they temporarily arrested all 17 suspects.
Wow.
And they took at least 4 cell phones.
Oh.
Remember, she reported the case back in October 2023.
Right.
So it had been going on for a while before they actually made those arrests.
Okay, and then what happened?
Well, they questioned the 13 suspects who were 14 or older.
Yeah.
And it sounds like some of them admitted to some stuff and others denied any involvement.
Right.
There was even a report of a 16-year-old who got arrested because he resisted the officers.
Oh, wow.
So you can tell there's a lot of tension around this whole investigation.
Definitely.
Very complex.
And we should probably mention, the claims that the defense has been making.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Some of the boys are saying that it was consensual.
Right.
And that Mia was pretending to be older than 14. But, obviously when you're dealing with a minor, it's not really up to her to decide whether it's consensual.
Exactly. The legal responsibility falls on the adult in these situations.
So, what kind of charges are we looking at here?
Well, they're talking about serious sexual abuse of a minor.
Right.
And then also the creation and distribution of child pornography.
Okay.
And investigators have also said that in at least one instance, there was physical force used.
Wow.
And that in other cases, they pressured her verbally to do things.
Okay, so to make this whole thing even more complicated, there's this other case involving a 16-year-old Syrian boy.
Right.
He's accused of raping Mia in a parking area at a train station back in 2023. And then he allegedly blackmailed her with this secretly recorded video of a sexual act.
Yeah.
And what Mia's saying about this is really disturbing.
It is.
She says he asked her for oral sex.
Right.
And just kept pressuring her.
Even after she said no.
Yeah.
It's just awful.
And the Syrian boy, in his statement, admitted to most of what she said.
Wow.
But he denied actually forcing her. So he was facing, a potential 5-year prison sentence.
Yeah.
But in the end, the news articles say he was acquitted on the rape charges.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because he said he didn't realize she was 12.
Seriously?
Because she looked older.
Huh. I mean, obviously that decision is going to contribute to the debate.
Yeah.
That's already happening.
So where do things stand now?
Well, the investigation into the gang rape is still going on.
Okay.
And Mia's lawyer is hoping for an indictment.
Yeah.
They want to show her
that
this system's taking this seriously, that they're going to fight for justice for her.
Okay, so let's move on to this other case that was in the reports. This one's about the alleged gang rape and blackmail of a 29-year-old Austrian school teacher.
Right.
And it also involves teenage boys.
Yeah, it sounds like several teenagers have actually been arrested in connection with this one.
Okay.
And the prosecution's basically saying that she was raped by 3 young men for several hours.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
On 2 separate occasions.
Last year?
Yeah.
Okay, and what's the background here?
So it sounds like she had what they're calling an intimate relationship with one of the accused guys.
Okay.
Who's a 17-year-old former student of hers.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That's so messed up.
And it gets worse because she got pregnant.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and the prosecution's saying that he pressured her to get an abortion.
There's
so many power dynamics at play here.
Right.
It's really disturbing.
Yeah, it's raised a lot of ethical questions.
Yeah, of course.
In the media and stuff.
So, what happened after that?
Well, she claims that they recorded their sexual encounter. And
then used those recordings to blackmail her into buying and using drugs.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awful.
It is.
And then what?
Well, then she says she was gang raped by 3 members of this group.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And it sounds like this group included guys with Iraqi, Austrian, Afghan, and Romanian nationalities.
Wow.
Although the reports don't say exactly which 3 are accused of the rape.
So it's like a whole other level of horror.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And to make matters worse, someone tried to set her apartment on fire.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it seems like things were escalating.
Yeah.
You know, maybe they were trying to intimidate her or something.
Yeah, it's scary.
So how many people are they investigating?
7.
Okay.
And they're between 14 and 17 years old.
14
Okay.
and
And
17
the charges
years.
they're looking at are rape, extortion, and arson.
Wow.
And 5 of them are currently in custody.
Okay.
But it is important to note
Yeah.
that they're denying the rape allegations.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the last case we're going to look at involves the alleged drugging and rape of 2 teenage girls
Yeah.
by asylum seekers.
Right.
And this one actually just went to trial in
Comment your
Vienna.
thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And the details are really hard to hear.
They are?
So these 2 girls,
Mm-hmm.
14 and 15 years old,
Right.
they were celebrating a national holiday in Keplerplatz
Okay.
back in October of last year.
Yeah.
And they were approached by these 2 men
Mhm.
who convinced them to get in a taxi.
Oh, no.
And the reports say that these men were Algerian nationals,
Right?
24 and 32 years old.
Yeah.
And they basically lured these girls
Mhm.
to this illegally occupied building
Right.
that some of the Austrian media are calling a horror house. Oh, God.
Yeah.
They told them they were going to a party.
Just awful.
So they get to this building,
Right.
and then it's like a nightmare.
Yeah.
It went on for like 15
It's a
hours.
nightmare.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, they were forced to take drugs
Yeah.
and threatened with death
He didn't say
if they
that.
didn't do what the men wanted.
Unbe-
And the 14-year-old testified that one of the men held a gun to
Oh.
her head.
Oh, my God.
It turned out to be a toy gun, but still.
That's still terrifying,
Yeah.
especially for a young girl
Yeah.
in that situation.
And both girls said that they were raped
Yeah.
and forced to do other sexual acts.
It's just so dehumanizing the way they were treated.
It's
And
really
the 15-year-old
horrible.
also said that the older guy strangled her.
God.
They both had injuries.
Yeah.
Strangulation marks, bruises, scratches. It's just,
That's horrible.
yeah, it's really hard to even process all of this.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
all these stories, they're so disturbing.
It's very
They are,
disturbing.
and it's important to remember that we've just been focusing on the facts as they've been reported,
Yeah.
you know?
Sticking to the sources.
Exactly.
Trying to understand what's actually going on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a lot to take in.
It is.
So I guess just to wrap things up,
Yeah.
there are some really clear themes.
Right. That emerged from all of these cases.
For sure.
You know, we're seeing underage victims in multiple cases,
Right.
allegations of gang rape, blackmail,
Mm.
and the involvement of both Austrian nationals and people with migrant backgrounds.
Yeah.
And of course, all of these cases are still working their way through the legal
Sure.
system.
That's right.
So, I guess it's up to you, the listener,
Yeah.
to think about what all of this means.
Mhm.
You know, what does it say about crime
Right.
and vulnerability in a diverse urban environment?
Yeah. It's a lot to think about.
It is.
That's for sure.
Okay, well, that's all the time we have for today.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.